All right, all right. Hi, Suzanne Taylor King here. We are live for the Idea Lab Coffee Chat series, and it's been a minute since I've done the Coffee Chat series. I've been focusing on my live stream TV show, and here we are today. I could not resist inviting the incredible Jeff Crume to this. And I'll tell you two things about this guy that really make him stand out to me: athlete, um, former pastor, incredible coach, beautiful human being who completely understands what it's like to be with another person and serve them profoundly. Welcome, my friend.
Mm. Wow. Thank you, Suzanne. I brought my own coffee, so for the coffee
Nice,
chat, I love
nice.
it.
Me too.
Um,
Me too.
yeah, you're gonna make me cry already. What a
Woo!
powerful introduction.
You're
Introduction.
so welcome.
Yeah,
You're
thank
so
you.
welcome.
It's an honor to be here. As we both, I believe, attempt to serve people profoundly. Um, I'm always wondering and questioning within my own heart and mind, why?
Mm. Mhm.
Why do I do what I do?
Yeah,
And so hopefully in the conversation today, we can bring out a few of those whys and give our
I would love
audience a
that.
little bit more insight as to why people do what we do, and hopefully causes and ignites some introspection for
Mhm.
them. Somebody might be listening that is on a path. They think that's the path they're supposed to be on. But maybe after listening, they go inward and go, why am I even here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Do I love to do this? Am I
Yeah.
called and created to do this? So hopefully our conversation today might stir some of that introspect in our listeners and view.
Oh, I would love to stir that. And, I've been told multiple times that, conversations with me are inspiring or give somebody hope that they can do what they are meant to do or what they are called to do or triumph through something. I'm pretty transparent about my own struggles, not only in life but in entrepreneurship, relationships, and how those struggles or failures or mistakes, if you want to call it that, have actually made me a better person or helped me in my business. You might not realize it when it's happening, but you certainly realize it later. I would love to ask you, what's your biggest hurdle, struggle, failure was, and how it, looking back on it now, you can actually see it as a growth experience.
Wow. Excellent question. Um, Looking back, a couple of things. Let me start off before I get to that monumental moment. I think
Hmm.
it's really important. I had written in some notes before our call. It's really important to know that what path are you on? And number two, who told you to get there? So
Mm.
back up the story a little bit, Suzanne. I remember as a little boy, my mother always told me, she said, Jeff, in her language, she said, God has called you to preach. That was
Mm.
her statement to me. Um, she said, you've been called to do this. Now, it's really powerful when somebody of that stature of authority tells us
Mm.
what they think we should do.
Yeah.
So, whoever is the highest authority in our life that speaks a word like that, I call it imparting. Our words are so powerful. There's an impartation, it reverberates in our soul almost.
Hmm.
And then when those words are spoken over us, we begin to repeat them over and over, and we
Yeah.
create an identity
Yeah.
over those words, right? And so the challenge is when we create that identity, it shapes and begins to steer our lives. We can get into relationships based upon that word. We can take on careers based upon that word. That
Mhm.
word that's turned into identity can drive the course of our lives. And I always teach people, unless you take a moment to ask yourself seriously, why am I here? You're not sure whether you're on the right track or not. And when it's a voice like mama's voice, which is a voice of authority, we're not taught to question the voice of authority, right?
So
So we
true.
don't go inward on our own journey. We don't ask the question, am I in the right place? All I know is this voice in my head is telling me I should go here, do that. So I always share with the clients that I work with, one of the things that we need to learn is we cannot conquer what we won't confront,
Mm,
and we won't confront what we hold sacred.
yeah.
Right. So those voices in our head, those impressions upon our soul when we were little that have guided us and led us into a direction, unless we actually open those up and start looking inside and confronting those to ask them, are you my truth?
Mhm.
We'll never know. So we blindly go in that direction that we believe that we're supposed to go, never taking a look at actually should we be going based upon who we believe we are. So it's a mouthful, but it's a lifelong journey,
It
Suzanne.
it
Constantly,
truly,
right?
truly is lifelong because, I remember at the beginning of my coaching career, my other entrepreneurial ventures didn't really have me being a public figure, so to speak, because social media didn't exist. It was more personal, it was more local, it was different before social media. And I will say I struggled in the beginning of social media, speaking so that people would understand what I did or who I was. It was awkward. It was weird. It was just not working. And I had a conversation with my massage therapist, believe it or not, very intuitive woman, very into energy medicine and all the things. And she said, were you told when you were young that children should be seen and
Mm,
not heard? I was
wow.
like, yeah, hundreds of times. And she said, I think it's time you let go of that.
Mm,
And I cried.
mm,
And I thought, I did believe that for a long time, that if I was in a situation with other people,
mm,
shut up.
mm.
And when I shifted that belief, I was able to speak to clients, to followers, to social media, to even writing a blog post that was going to be public turned out better, more authentic, more real. I could say my own words and not what I thought someone wanted to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so powerful. I'm always curious of why we don't believe in ourselves.
Mm,
Early on, in their
mhm,
conversation, you even asked, what do you think that it is that people stumble with? And I
mhm.
really have found in my lifetime, Suzanne, that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter to what degree
Yeah.
of life or success, right, that you think that you've arrived at. It doesn't matter. We all struggle with this innate disbelief, moving away from belief,
Mhm,
disbelief. So here I am, but here I am. I'm separated from the very me that I was created to be. Don't know how to get back to that person.
mhm,
The only tools that I've used is what somebody else has taught me. That's why
mm,
when I was talking about my mom, her authority or her voice is an authority. But what I learned in my journey is the highest authority that can speak into your life is you.
mm,
You are the highest, most powerful authority. So, as coaches, as trainers, as speakers, as influencers, I tell people all the time, I didn't make you do that. I can't make you do anything.
yeah.
And I used to tell when you mentioned I was a pastor, when I was a pastor, I used to tell the congregation, if you came by my church and heard one thing that you believed helped transform your life and you went on, I
Mhm.
think I've done my job.
Right.
Because if I get you, here's my goal, Suzanne. If I get you hooked on me, you're going to have to carry me with you throughout the rest of your life,
Yes.
right? I
Yeah.
got Jeff, I got Suzanne on my back. Suzanne, talk to me. Jeff, talk to me. No, no,
Yeah,
no,
no.
no, no, honey. I got to get you talking to you, right?
Yeah.
I got to get.
Yeah. Well, I love that so much because, um, I was taught early in my coaching career that you wanna hold on to clients as long as possible.
Yeah,
And immediately, don't teach them too much in your 3-month program because you want them to sign up for the next
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And immediately I was like, I I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to I want to empower people to not need me.
Mhm,
I want to show people how to fend for themselves in this world of entrepreneurialism.
mhm.
And if you hang out with me long enough, you do learn how to find your own answers and not need to re-sign up for something else or something else and something else. That's not my goal is never to have you dependent on me. And I remember when I was suggested to that that's the way to do it.
Right.
Get them hooked on you.
Mhm.
Get them dependent on you. And I was like, no. No, no. And I think as I've grown, I'm not dependent on, I mean, anybody
Yeah,
really because of my own self belief. I believe I can do anything I choose to. I believe I can find the answers for things. I believe that 95% of the answers are here.
yeah,
And through conversations like this, what I hope is that more and more people realize that. And I know you do too. Like, it's just amazing when you can finally tap into your own belief in yourself.
yeah. Yeah, it's I call it turning the light on.
Mm,
And there's a lot of people. I thought about this the other day, Suzanne, and it probably was something of a conversation that you and I had started. But we've heard, gosh, this is so powerful. It's just, I can just feel it in the pit of my stomach.
hmm,
We've always heard that hurt people, right? In other words, if I'm hurting, I
mhm,
get around somebody, I'm going to have a tendency to hurt them too,
mm,
especially if I'm an influencer, a coach, someone that's helping someone else. Therapy says we're going to get you whole first so
mm,
that then you're out of your wholeness and your healing, you can help heal others. And the other day, I was walking the trails in the morning, and this overwhelming feeling came on me and said, what if I could help someone else, even in the depths of my hurt?
mhm,
And
mhm.
this thought illuminated to me that the reason I want to help you and can truly help you out of your hurt is because I'm coming from such a deep, hurtful place in myself, and I know what it feels like to get out of that place. And
Yeah.
it is my desire to get out of that painful place that helps me get you out of your painful place. So
Mhm.
it's interestingly so that the hurt one uses their hurt to elevate and lift up someone else because they
Yes.
so desire to see if anybody is going through this hell, oh my God, I pray you get out and you get out
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
So that's where I think brilliant conversations can be like this. You don't have to fix it up. And I think that's what causes us to separate ourselves from ourselves because we're waiting to be fixed up. There's people listening right now that you're still waiting to dress it up, fix it up, call it whatever. And I'm going to call you my coach, Suzanne, because you are. You've told me that yourself. Jeff, just
Mhm.
go be you. Take that light and
Yeah.
light the world with it. So I think that people are waiting. They're waiting on waiting, right? And you can't
Yeah.
wait on waiting, because waiting never shows up, and you know that. We have to
No, it doesn't.
fight.
I think I got a message this morning from a client, and I just happened to make a couple suggestions to her. I don't tell my clients what to do. I make suggestions.
Hmm.
I say, well, this could work, or there's so many paths you could take in
Yeah,
this crazy world, right?
yeah,
And I made a couple suggestions to her. I said, try this and then try this. And it was about social media, it was about Instagram and making sales and connecting with people. And she messaged me this morning and she said, oh my God, I did what you suggested. And I have 6 calls booked with me.
love it.
And as I'm listening, she's out of the country, so we share messages on WhatsApp. So I'm not talking to her live. And I literally just got flooded with happiness
Hmm.
and emotion for her. And I know how hard she struggled to get to that point
Yeah,
where that was happening for her. And I messaged her back. I said, thank you so much for sharing that. I am literally happy tears, goosebumps, and I'm going to put on my favorite song and I'm going to dance around my office thinking about you. And she messaged back and we had a couple good laughs about, what song I was going to pick to dance to. And she was going to pick the same song and dance around to it. And she's in Europe and I'm here in the States.
I love it.
And so those moments of, I know that's why I do this. I know that's why you do this, because having someone, I've been in that pit of pain with so many different things.
Yeah,
So many.
yeah, yeah.
In one talk that I gave years ago before the pandemic, it was about grit and resilience. And I started the talk with one long run on sentence about every hard thing I've ever encountered.
Hmm.
And as I kept going with the list, I could see the faces of the audience changing.
Hmm.
And by the time I got to the end of the 45 things that I mentioned, there was applause because I was still standing. And I took away with that something really powerful, that if I can do that, if I can inspire one person to tackle a personal or a professional hardship with a new lens,
Mhm.
that fills my soul with, and I strive to do that every day, whether I'm getting paid from that person or not.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that is so powerful, I think, Suzanne,
Mhm.
because of energy exchange.
Yeah.
I just wrote this in my phone before we got on the call. I'm just going to be transparent. Before
Yeah.
we got on this call, Suzanne, I went out in the hallway and my son was getting ready to go someplace. And he just looked at me and I looked at him and he knew what I needed. I needed
Uh-huh.
a hug.
Uh-huh.
So he leans into me. I'm hugging my son. And he just patted me on the back and he said, "You got this."
Oh my God.
And I thought, I walked away, just kind of moved back from him. And I said, "Son, I just had to snag some of your energy
Mm.
before I jumped on my call." And
How
the
old is he?
pardon?
How old is he?
He's 19. Yeah.
19.
Yeah. He's the one. My son has been through back, gosh, it's been almost a year now, Suzanne. We thought we were going to lose him.
Mm.
He came down deathly sick was in ICU. Maybe that's another topic for another conversation, but we thought we were going to lose him. And in some of those moments that I had with him in the hospital, um, I connected with him on a deeper level than I've ever connected with him at all.
Mhm.
Sometimes I had to stop trying to be a father and just be, and that being connected with his being instead of trying to judge or correct or mold or shape or all of those
Yeah.
egoic things that I think that I needed to do so that I could have some type of sense of my own worth and value and accomplishment. See, I
Mhm.
think if we just get the bleep out of our own way and just let our love and light shine, we can connect with people. And there's such transformational healing during that connection. And
Mhm.
I'll never forget when Luke was in hospital, um, he said, Dad, they had put him under, they had to intubate him, and he was on life support for a couple of days. And when he
Oh my
came out from
goodness.
underneath of that and started to talk to me, he said, Dad, during this time, he said, I saw myself and I had this huge sword in my hand. And he said, it was dark and there was an enemy coming at me, and he too had a sword. And he said, Dad, I stood up in front of that enemy and I wielded my sword at him. And he said, the enemy stuck up his sword, and my sword shattered his sword. And he said, when my sword shattered the enemy's sword, he said, I knew that I was going to be okay. And that kid, Suzanne, has come back with such grit and resilience.
Mhm.
Um, we've had conversations with a lot of your network, the Ideal Lab network, which I absolutely love. Sajad is one of those men that have been in your group and had conversations with. But
Mhm.
Sajad has a similar story about, kind of end of life things
Yes.
and
Yeah.
challenges. And I've witnessed this now in my own life personally and in my son's life. When we come back from the most excruciatingly painful, dark times in our life, we come back with swords in our hand. We come back with light. We come back with
Oh my
light.
gosh.
It
Yeah.
is so invincible, right? And
Mhm.
so all of the stuff that we thought we worried about becomes so superfluous, and we don't even care about it anymore. There's just this
It's
inner force, right? So yeah.
oh my gosh, it's so true. Last year, and not many people know this. You don't know this. Most of my followers, listeners don't know this. But a year ago on St. Patty's Day, I was doing yoga and I stretched a certain way that pulled two herniated discs I have in my neck apart,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it pinched a blood vessel and caused a stroke in a weird part of my brain, not the normal part of the brain where a stroke happens. And it is the part of the brain that affects your autonomic systems, your breathing, your balance, all of those things that we do without even thinking about them.
Yeah.
And immediately I had the worst vertigo ever. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't stand. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything but crawl across the floor and yell for my husband, who had no idea what to do. So I
Mhm.
made him call my girlfriend that lives down the street. And ultimately, I was totally fine. They do consider it a stroke, even though it was functional.
Mhm.
No side effects, no physical issues afterwards, no mental issues afterwards. So lucky. And for a couple weeks, I was feeling sorry for myself
Mhm.
and feeling bad about the setback and very scared because that's how my mother died and that's how my grandmother died.
Mhm.
All on my both on my mother's side. So there's this thing, this fear that came over me and inhibited me for a while. Um, and I will say, since then, I have chosen to let it be the other way. Instead of fear, instead of being scared to move or scared to live or, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, to actually have it light me up
Hmm.
in the other direction.
Yeah.
And I notice the people who embrace that attitude, and maybe that's part of that attitude, is that little, I used to call them God taps.
Hmm.
When you just get tapped on the shoulder, like, hello, hello. And I feel like it was one of those moments
Hmm.
for me. It reprioritized things in my life. It re-challenged me to be a better version of myself, physically, mentally, emotionally, and entrepreneurially. And I hear what you're saying about this thing that happened to you and your son. And I'm wondering, did it have that appreciation factor? Did it increase your gratitude? I mean, you're such a grateful person anyway. But when something like that happens and you come out the other side with a positive outcome, how should that shift your being?
Yeah.
How can it shift your being
Yeah.
if you allow it?
Yeah. So very well said. The challenge is when those little God taps, I call them poofs.
Mm,
This, it just happened. When it happens, we physiologically respond to what I believe is a spiritual experience. Just, it's like a sound wave, if you could see it just passing through you. And for a moment, we're in the presence and the totality of that
mm,
experience. That's why our heart is warm. That's why our tears. J-Lo called it getting goosies every time she heard somebody sing or have something moment. You talked about getting goosies. Those goosies are a physiological response to a spiritual experience. The challenge is how do we embrace them and make them part of us?
yeah.
Because Suzanne, there are times where my son, after we got out of that, I could not for I think 14 days, we lived at the hospital. And I remember the times walking down the hall, going out and trying to keep our community abreast of what was going on through video or whatever. I'm having a conversation with them and I'm not knowing whether he's going to live or he's going to die.
Mhm.
Now, after we turned a little bit of a corner, I'll never forget, I was coming down that same hallway in the morning and I reached a threshold in the hallway and I said out loud, this is the last day we will be in this hospital.
Mm,
And something happened. That was the last day we were in that hospital.
mhm,
Medicine chased a diagnosis. Medicine chased what was wrong. They could never find out what was wrong. They never to this day have found out what was wrong. And it moved my son so monumentally that he developed this grit and determination that he was not going to let go of anything. But back to
mhm.
answer your question, those moments don't last. They pass
Yes.
through us.
Yes.
It is somebody needs to hear me. It is our responsibility to hold them in reserve, to draw from them when we need them most.
Mhm.
Case in point, as much as I loved my son, as grateful and thankful as I was for the connection that we had made while he was in the hospital, fast forward months, he's still living with us, rebounding, getting on his feet. He's got a beautiful girlfriend. She's been by his side. He's got a wonderful job. Everything is rolling smoothly. But we had a moment where we collided,
Mhm.
Suzanne. He did something. I didn't like it. I said something. He didn't like it. And we found, here's the key. We found ourselves diverting back to old patterns of communication with one another,
Mm,
which was
mhm,
doing
mhm,
this. And
mhm.
I forgot that this guy who just held the hand of his son, not knowing whether he was going to live, and I didn't give a flap for what he had done in his life. All I know is I valued the fact that he was alive. I
Mhm.
let that go to the background, and in the forefront was my own
Yeah.
egoic,
Yep.
nasty, antagonistic, perfectionistic father influence in me that was going to take it out on him. And I'm telling you, you know what the magic was? All of a sudden, we both stopped. And he looked at me and I looked at him and we go, oh shit, we're
Oh, yeah.
doing it again.
Yep.
And we stopped. Here was the key. We stopped it, Suzanne. And when we stopped that approach towards one another, that alternate or that unconditional love that we had experienced started to resurface and bubble up. And we grabbed each other, hugged each other, and
Mhm.
we were able to move past
Amazing.
it. We were able to move past it. So yeah, it's pretty
Amazing.
incredible. If we can manage that energy, right? If we can
Yeah.
manage that emotional energy that's in us, we can do amazing things.
For sure.
Yeah.
Somebody from Facebook, I can't tell who it is, but I think I know who it is by what she wrote, and I want to share this. This so resonates with me, Jeff and Suzanne. Thank you so much for sharing, especially as a parent experiencing challenges. I'm a mom of 5, and I only know one mom of 5. So if it's you, I love you. She's trying to navigate difficult situations from parenting children's age 0 to 17 and currently building a business from the ground. She finds trouble drawing the lines between self-sabotage, fear, and actual physical barriers. Your stories and wisdom really reached into me today. Practicing gratitude every day intentionally is my saving grace. I know who you are, and I love you, and I see you, and I just, if that's what we're doing, and if it's that one person, Jeff, that we just did that for, mission accomplished today.
Touche. I totally agree with you.
All right. Well, let's wrap up with that high note, amazingness.
Indeed.
Thank you for joining me for a powerful conversation today. Anytime I would do this with you. How can our listeners support you, reach out to you, connect with you?
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity to share. These types of conversations that we just had, this is what I share with my clients that I work with. I've always said that all healing and all transformation begins with a conversation.
Yes.
So if someone's listening and you're in need of one of these powerful conversations, reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. That connection will be in the information below and in the program outline. You can reach me at my website, which is jeffcrume.com. And I'd love to have a conversation with you. Find out where you're at. There might be a place that you're stuck. There might be something that you've already learned, but you don't know how to apply that. You don't know how to practically apply it. And I can help you get through that so that you can get unstuck and start shining your light to the others who need you. So you can reach me there at LinkedIn and on my website, Suzanne. Thank you for asking.
I love it. I love it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us live here for the Idea Lab Coffee Chat. And if you have questions for Jeff or for me, please put them in the comments. If you're catching the replay, put #replay, and I come back and check the comments. And if you're looking to reach Jeff or me, our websites are right here, right over here.
Yeah, there we go.
Have an awesome day and an awesome weekend. And remember who you are and continue being awesome and helping other people do the same thing. Love you, Jeff. Thank you.
Love you, Suzanne. Thank you.